Well, thanks again for those of you who hopped on live tonight. Welcome to our weekly call, our Monday night wellness call. We're starting a few minutes late tonight. But tonight we're talking about gardening with Young Living. Super fun. A smaller niche for those of you who love to garden. But as I just shared before I hit the record button, preparing for this, I'm learning even more ways to use our precious oils that I've never really known. I've used oils in the garden a couple of ways, which when we get to, I'll share. But I learned more in prep for this. And so tonight I was going to have a good friend of mine. Her name is Elizabeth. She was going to teach this class with me. And that's her cute little logo at the top there. If you can see in the slide, it says Bienvenue Kitchen Garden. That's her business. But sadly, she helped her 15-year-old dog cross the Rainbow Bridge today. And so she was just grieving and not able to join us. But I did ask her, and she shared how she has a great gardening business. I've hired her before to help me really plan out. She moved my garden beds to get the most sun. She tells you what to plant and when to plant. She's got this awesome little business. And I asked her, what are ways you've used oils that you can attest to, that you've seen, good results from, that I can share with everyone tonight. And so she's given me, and I've kind of quoted her throughout. But that was really nice to hear from an avid gardener who does this for a living, that stays away from all the chemicals. And so she shared with me her ways, and I'll share with you those. So if you are a gardener, growing a garden is really wonderful. So many reasons why, to have control over your food supply, to maybe save money on groceries. It can also be really good for your mental health because you're getting contact with very beneficial bacteria. I don't know if you've ever read about, with organic good soil, just touching it. Somebody had said in the chat when they hopped in, I love to get my fingers in the dirt. That's so good for your body and your mental health. But at the same time, it can be extremely toxic if we're not gardening with organic soil. And if we're using things that I'm going to talk about real quick, like fungicides or pesticides, it can actually be really, really harmful. So while we're just on the topic of gardening, before I jump into some of the ways to use oils, I felt like that's definitely worth mentioning because synthetic pesticides are extremely toxic for the environment, for bees, for you. Most of them have been linked to a whole host of diseases and conditions. So obesity, ADHD, autism, Parkinson's disease, infertility, birth defects, learning disorders, cancer, and more. That is the list of chemicals. And I'm not going to name all the chemicals. I feel like that you won't recognize a lot of them, but maybe some of these you will. So glyphosate, that's a big one, right? That's one of the most popular ones or most popular culprits is it's Roundup. That's in Roundup. Some other chemicals that are commonly found in these gardening things are dicamba, permethrin, bifenthrin, slyfruthrin. These sound fake. I don't know if these ring a bell to you. There's a whole list of them. But if you're buying non-organic gardening supplies, chances are these are in those things. So glyphosate, the one that I mentioned in Roundup, has been deemed as a probable human carcinogen by the World Health Organization. It's actually been named in over 11,000 lawsuits claiming it caused non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And a few of those lawsuits have been awarded millions of dollars. So they're not saying that it didn't cause it. They're getting compensated for it. And unfortunately, fungicides fare no better. They're one of the most common types of endocrine disruptors. A common chemical in those is called, I don't know if I'm saying this right, conazolase. And then also just something to keep in mind when we're talking about health-related things, this also has to do with your cleaning products. This also has to do with your supplements, but greenwashing, that's where you see products that have natural or maybe even organic, and it actually isn't that great of quality. So what I learned in my research is that according to Mother Earth News, when you're getting gardening products, whether that's gloves, soil, fertilizer, any of these things, you want something that has like it's called OMRI. That stands for Organic Material Review Institute. And you want something that has that like seal and label on it, kind of like with our oils. We want to see the seed to seal oil label on it. So with gardening things, OMRI, Organic Material Review Institute, they basically test the raw materials that are used in the product production and all the processes. So know better, do better, right? So I read studies today. I don't have time to go into all of these, but just studies that show the chemicals in everything, y'all, fertilizer, plant food, even hoses, even gardening gloves that can literally cause cancer and other health problems. So really, I mean, there's a better option for everything. I read about something ridiculous today, like, the kneeling pads people use in gardens, how those plastics, if you're trying to organically garden, that they can run off into your soil, and just using like a wooden stool is such a simple fix. Or instead of like your typical hose that has the PVC, which contains phthalates, which are horrible for you, you can just get a natural rubber hose, like just really simple swaps. So there is a group called, is it Healthy Stuff? This is a consumer testing group that has a lot of great information on gardening. So if you're interested in all those things, Healthy Stuff is what it's called. Okay, here's a little bit about fertilizers. So the nitrates in fertilizers and plant food are what makes those products super dangerous. They lower the ability of your red blood cells to carry and deliver oxygen. According to the American Association of Poison Control Centers, there were nearly 5,000 cases of poisoning from indoor household plant foods, outdoor plant foods, and other fertilizers. And this is obviously the majority of these cases were accidental poisonings in children 5 years and under. But gosh, there's such a better choice, right? How about organic compost? How about ditching the commercial fertilizer and reaching for something just a little bit better? But that's crazy. I just think these are things like we don't consider. We think we're doing something healthy for ourselves by having plants in our home because they oxygenate the air, and then it has repercussions if we're not getting organic quality stuff. So same things with herbicides, the chemicals formulated specifically to kill weeds. They run off on your water, they run off on your lawn. There are studies, like I mentioned, with Roundup and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. Sorry, what was I going to say about? Yes, y'all, when Jeremy and I were newlyweds, we had a beautiful golden retriever. Her name was Willow, and she died at the age of 2 of cancer. And I was like, okay, what is going on? Like, we feed this dog organic and raw. And I asked the oncologist, the vet, like, what on earth would have caused this? I don't think it was food. Like, I don't think it was anything that, like I have no idea what could have been the case. And she said that this is just her theory, that she sees a lot of young cancer cases with dogs with diggers. She said, because we were in a neighborhood at the time, if whoever like laid your foundation, if there were chemicals, if there's chemicals running off in the water source around you, maybe from people's gardens and fertilizers and things, and she's a digger, she said that she saw the most cancer in digging breeds that with like young cancer like that. So I thought that was very, very interesting. So enough about that. Let's talk about some awesome options that we have. And I know that there's, if y'all are familiar with diatomaceous earth, we use that a lot. That's a powder basically made from the sediment of fossilized crustaceans. That's really great for killing pests and roaches. You want to get a food grade brand if you have pets, but that's something you can literally sprinkle in your yard and in your garden. There are natural options out there. So why oils? Well, goodness, they are so versatile. Let me get to my next slide here. They have natural repelling properties. This is part of what essential oils do in the plant. If you've ever listened to a essential oil chemistry class, then you know that this is part of what they do in nature, what a plant does. The essential oil in the plant helps repel bugs and insects and different funguses and bacteria. And so they do have this natural property. Some of them have, all plants and all essential oils have different chemical constituents with different functions. But they all do share a natural repelling property. Some are going to be stronger than others in different ways. The example I put here was thyme oil. It has 5 insect fighting substances called monoterpenes, and you can read them right there. So most oils distilled from the mint family, which is like your culinary herbs. They also have like a natural repellent against insects, like an insecticide, a natural insecticide. Oils from the pine family and the cedar family are also used as insect repellents just around the world. The cool thing about this that I had so much fun like geeking out to when I was researching for this is that there's tons of research. There's tons of research. So let me click this and see if this will work just to show you guys. I did link just a few studies if you are a fellow nerd and think stuff like that is cool, but just validating what I'm saying. Here is like a table of the repellent efficiency of different plants. Lemon, eucalyptus. Look at this. So a whole chart here showing the properties that they have to repel insects. And this is, if you're interested in this, this is the Malaria Journal, part of the Biomed Center. So you can just find that online. Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoint here. Other things that they do, they mask scents that are attractive to bugs. And so that's like mainly why people praise citronella oil. Oops. Because citronella oil does that. It masks scents that bugs are attracted to. And that's why we use it as like a natural kind of bug repellent. And it's difficult for the bugs to make the plant their target. So there's those properties as well. There's also oils that are high in fungus fighting properties. So I mentioned a few here, like orange and lemongrass and tea tree. Then you can also use oils on the flip side for attracting pollinators. So attracting the good bugs that you want that are going to help your plants, like lavender, sage, marjoram, neroli. I think I read helichrysum also. Then you can use different oils to kill weeds. So cinnamon, clove, spicy oils like that, thieves. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. There's also oils that can help keep away pests like rodents or pets even. Peppermint and black pepper are 2 of those. Just want to make sure that y'all can see my slides now that I switched over. Can y'all still see those? Because I went from the study to the slide. Perfect. And then, of course, if you've ever listened to my class on oils and emotions, just you using them in your garden and being out there is going to benefit you in so many ways. But I'm just thinking like emotional health. You're outside, you're in the soil, you're getting the good bacteria. Hopefully your screen or your phone is far away, so you have no Wi-Fi interfering and you're just getting good vitamin D. And then you've got the therapeutic benefits. You're literally got aromatherapy going on. And so this is benefiting your body and your mind while you're gardening. How cool is that? Here's a quote from my friend Elizabeth. So she says, I use different oils on myself while gardening for mosquito protection, but since gardening for me is so therapeutic, I will use oil blends that help with grounding me or assist with calming my mind, like grounding, that's an oil, peace and calming, or stress away. I find it really enhances the moment for me. And I thought that was really cool. All right, let's get into just a few examples. I didn't want this class to be overwhelming because I do feel like I could have named 50 different oils, but the ones that are most commonly used, the ones that I read research on, the ones that Elizabeth shared with me that she uses. So I just have a handful that I want to share with you. So first of all, cinnamon. I mentioned that one already, but this one is really good for getting rid of weeds. You can make a spray bottle with water and several drops of cinnamon and just spray down your plants, and it's not going to harm the plants, but spray down your weeds every single day and watch what happens with those weeds. I read some really cool studies on cinnamon and clove. I think I might have shared a clove one later here. But yeah, spray down your weeds with cinnamon. Don't worry about, don't do the Roundup. Rosemary. This has something called the butterfly effect. So this works really well to repel pests in the garden, but it's also been shown to repel the larva itself. So not just the ones that are creeping and crawling, but even down to that larva stage. Place a few drops right on a pot to keep the bugs from chewing up the leaves of your plant. And it's also known to be a butterfly attractor. Lavender also, I'll talk about in a minute. Butterflies love rosemary oil. So if you want to help attract more butterflies, use that one for sure. Peppermint oil. There were so many studies on this one. So I got to move this out the way. So this, obviously, if you've ever smelled peppermint, you know, it's very refreshing. It's very minty. It's going to give you great energy while you're out there. But it has so many different versatile properties that will, one of them being that they repel insects and bugs. I found a study that said it offered 100% protection against mosquito bites for 150 minutes when applied topically. That is very cool. There's other oils that fall in this category: thieves, lemongrass, rosemary, great for repelling flying insects like gnats, like mosquitoes, where I read other studies that showed oils like cedarwood, pine, and hyssop are great specifically for slugs and snails. So peppermint oil, you can use it for aphids, flies, beetles, and even spiders. I know, like, I don't have thankfully a spider problem in this house, but in my very first little cottage when I was a newlywed, it was like a really old house. I used to spray the baseboards with water and peppermint to get rid of spiders. So Elizabeth, I'll quote her again. She says, "I've put peppermint on cotton balls and placed them around the garden to deter mice and rats. You can also soak pieces of thread to tie and hang them around in your garden." So 2 really easy, practical ways to get peppermint in your garden, just with cotton ball and thread. Lavender oil. So you can put this like in a little bowl, obviously diffusing it in your home, but you can put it like in a little bowl with like water to keep away insects and deter certain pests, even inside of your home. Obviously, if you're getting any bug bites while you're out there, it's super effective to keep those like mosquitoes away and to relieve the itching and irritation once you do get a bite. But one really cool thing you can do also to attract butterflies is just put a couple drops on a cotton ball and place it in your pots to attract those good pollinators. And lavender oil is extremely, extremely relaxing and really great for being out in the sun all day. All right, thieves oil. I don't know if I've missed any studies that I should click on. A study from 2013 looked at volunteers' forearms. So they did like the arm test. Young Living actually did this with our insect repellent, which I'll mention later, but that's literally where they stick their arm in like a cage of mosquitoes. It's so disgusting. I can't even imagine. But it showed that clove oil with coconut oil protected for 76 to 96 minutes. So that's kind of cool. I guess I just often think about like citronella for that, you know, for mosquitoes, but thieves. So thieves household cleaner, which has thieves oil in it, is really, your plants are going to love this. I hear so many people say that their plants got so happy when they started spraying them down. Like if you're spraying your counters with thieves and then just spray your house plants, they nourish your house plants and they're going to help them thrive. You can take that also and spray the base of the leaves of any plant. And this is especially good for when you're bringing your plants in during the winter time. Does anybody, I'd love to know, like, as I'm mentioning these oils, do y'all use these this way? Is this brand new information? Is this something you're familiar with? This was the study that I mentioned about I thought this was the clove oil study. Yep, this says clove oil and olive oil and coconut oil. So pretty cool. All right. Spray the base of the leaves with Thieves household cleaner. All right, this is a DIY Plant Lady spray that I learned about last year at a make and take, and I spray my indoor plants with it as well. So if you, instead of the Thieves household cleaner, or you use it, you can add peppermint and rosemary as well to that. And then this is what Elizabeth said. So she said, I usually plant a lot of basil, and it's a beneficial companion plant to tomatoes, beans, and peppers. But for those that have a small garden or don't use basil, then you can just use the oil and the thread technique, right? Which is where you put the oil on a piece of thread and kind of tie that around your garden, or make a spray with some water and use around your companion plants to deter pests and encourage better growth. So that's specifically using basil. So even though my recipe here calls for peppermint and rosemary, you can totally add some basil to that. And that's Emerson last year watering our garden. How cute is that? Her shirt says flower child. Okay, this was cool. Found this study. This is more having to do with deterring insects on you while you're working in your garden, because citronella, like I mentioned in the beginning, masks the smell of what would attract bugs to come want to eat your plants. So citronella masks that. So I read 2 different studies. So one that basically said that if you apply it topically, citronella oil, or you spray it, because it contains all these different chemical constituents, citronella, citronellol, geraniol, citrol, A-pinene, and limonene. It's been known for a long time to be as effective as even DEET. However, I read another study that said if you combine citronella with vanilla, it smells really good, that it actually it lengthens the time of evaporation. So that's kind of I would say the problem with natural, why people always go with like not always, but why people choose maybe the synthetic route, because they think it works better. It's not necessarily that it works better, it's that it maybe lasts longer. And so that study of citronella with vanilla increased the protection time by about 2 more hours. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, so Young Living does have a wonderful insect repellent made 100% with our plants and our oils. It's been proven clinically, like I mentioned, the arm test with the mosquitoes, to be 99%, 100% naturally derived, 99% active ingredients to repel mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas, plus 1% vitamin E to moisturize and condition the skin. If you've ever used this before, you know it's not sticky or greasy. It doesn't have that finish like most of those yucky insect sprays have, insect repellents. This one is very like moisturizing for your skin. And it smells really good. You can also make your own, and that I put a little recipe there that I've used before, and that's where you use witch hazel and water and rubbing alcohol, and then you can do any oils you want. I said 20 to 30 drops, maybe do 5 or 10 of each of these: cedarwood, citronella, basil, and vanilla. I think that would smell really good. Last but not least, just a couple of things worth mentioning because they kind of fall under this category, but we have a wonderful product called the Thieves Fruit and Veggie Soak. Actually, at our event yesterday, our spring brunch, one of the ladies was talking about this and how this little bottle lasts forever and ever because it's so concentrated. You just need a little capful. So when even though you're organically gardening, still want to bring in your harvest and soak and spray these and just get anything off of those that might remain. So this is a really cool blend. It's got 3 blends in it of oils. It's got Thieves, it's got Digize. So we already mentioned Thieves, right? Thieves is really powerful, immune boosting blend. Digize is wonderful for like warding off parasites and digestion, and purification is really powerful. It's got tea tree oil in it. So this combo cleanses your produce. And you just put a little capful in a bowl of water and soak your things in there. So this is what Elizabeth said. You can see her quote at the bottom. She said, even though I grow toxin-free and organically, I still wash my harvest in the Thieves Veggie Wash. Between whatever is floating in the air, mosquito control, right? Things we can't control. And of course, dirt, animal droppings, etc. It's the perfect companion to help remove all of that. So it's kind of like your final touch on your gardening. And then of course, had to mention Young Living sunscreen, because I feel like if you're out there and in the sun and you think you're trying to protect yourself with toxic sunscreen, you're really just putting in your own body some really pretty bad chemicals. And I love Young Living's mineral sunscreen. It's 50 SPF. It is reef safe. It's got no harsh chemicals. We use it on our kids. It's great for it's gentle on your skin. And it works up to 80 minutes before you need to reapply. So it is amazing, non-nano zinc oxide. It smells good. It's got the oils in it. It's got citronella in it. So, worth mentioning as you're out there spending some time in the sun. Of course, good old vitamin D is a great thing. I tend to just go out with like a hat and maybe a long sleeve shirt. And sometimes I don't even like to wear sunglasses because I know vitamin D is absorbed in our eyes. So great options with Young Living. I feel like that was I was trying to go fast and end on time, but hopefully you got some good ideas, something really practical. We mentioned just a few oils tonight. Mentioned citronella, vanilla, peppermint, basil, thieves, lavender, cinnamon, and rosemary. So I hope that helped. Can't wait to hear some feedback if you guys using these in your garden, and I'll go ahead and stop the recording and take any questions, but thanks for coming tonight. And We haven't put out our calendar of events for next month yet. So next Monday, we haven't even announced what it is yet, but stay tuned and yeah, we'll see you next Monday, which is April 3rd. Does it